numbers. So we know that we can simplify fractions. Like if we had the fraction 2/10, we can take and divide the top and the bottom by the same number, and we can get it into what we call simplest form. Well, we can simplify decimals as well, and usually we do, or the way we do that. So to simplify the decimal, for example, 0.20, how would we read that first off as a decimal? We would read it as 20 hundredths. Because remember, the way we read it is we always read the number we see, and then we name the last place. So this would be 20, and then this is in the hundredths place, so 20 hundredths. To simplify it, we take away any unnecessary zeros. So what we're going to do is we can always get rid of zeros that are to the right of the decimal point. We can't get rid of them if they are in the middle of two numbers like that. You can't get rid of this zero. But this zero, since it's just hanging out at the end here, you can get rid of it without changing the value of the number. Okay, so this, because what this means is that there are no hundredths, so we could just get rid of it, and we can simplify 20 hundredths to this number, which is 2/10. So we can remove zeros until we get a number that doesn't have any zeros in it, and they mean the same thing. Okay, this one we would have to leave this way, but there are three different, in the middle of page 650, there are three different numbers. They're not written out as examples, but if you'll see them there on the page. They're kind of separated off. All right, so this number, as I said, we can't get rid of this zero because it has a 1 right here. But these two right here, we don't have to have those there. They're unnecessary. So this right now says 2 and 100 tenths, hundreds, thousandths, 10,000ths, 110 thousandths. But we don't need either of those there. So we can simplify this down. And we can also get rid of that zero because we don't need zeros to the left in a whole number. And so our simplest form is 2 and 100th. For this number, we can get rid of that unnecessary zero. And since we have nothing over here that's left, we can also get rid of the decimal point. It's really not necessary to have our decimal point there. So this number in simplest form would be 20. And then this number, we would get rid of these two decimals, and we would end up with 2/10. You'll notice in the book they also show that you can cross off this zero and you can have 2/10 like that. Technically, yes, this is correct. I don't prefer it this way. I think it's best when you have a decimal to have a zero there, because sometimes, especially when we're handwriting, it can be hard to see if we meant for there to be a decimal there, if it's just a dot on the paper. So it's best really to have the zero there, but you will see it this way. And if you choose to do it this way in your assignments, I'm not going to mark you wrong. But this right here would be my preference. I feel personally that that's the best way to do it. Okay. So if we look down at the bottom paragraph of page 650, it says in some situations we might want to attach zeros to a decimal number. The decimal point of a decimal number determines place value, not the number of digits. So attaching zeros at the end of a decimal number does not change the place value. Where that becomes important, let me show you why they're saying that. It's like, you're not going to have to do any in this lesson, but I do want to show you what they mean by that. Let's say you had, sometimes you have like, where you've got to compare two numbers. Oh, let me write it the other way. Let me write it over. I don't like how I did that there. Okay. What if I asked you to compare these two numbers and I asked you to use less than, greater than, or equal to? Okay. Well, sometimes when students look at this, they see, well, this one's 5 and this one's 50, so this one must be bigger. But really, since it's a decimal, it would really be best if they have the same number of decimal places. So since this number has 2 decimal places, this number should also have 2 decimal places. So this is one of those situations where we would want to add a 0 to the right, because now it's much easier for us to compare these two numbers, because we can see that they are actually equal to each other. 5/10 and 50/100 are the same, have the same value. All right, now let's look at example 1. In example 1, it says Otis added 3 75/100 to 2 75/100, and he found that the sum was 6 50/100. So we want to simplify that sum. So to simplify it, once again, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the extra zeros. So I'm going to take away that 0 right there, and we're going to simplify it to 6 5/10. Okay. All right, and then for example, so that's what you do if you have to simplify a decimal number. You get rid of any extra zeros, okay? In example 2, the directions on page 651 say, attach a 0 to the end of 5 without changing the value of a number. Well, if I have a 5 and I just attach a 0 to the end, then I've definitely changed the value, right? Because I took that 5 and made it into a 50. So how can we attach a 0 to the end of 5 without changing the value? What we would have to do is put in a decimal point, and then we can add a 0, and we will have not changed the value, because this is equal to just 5. Okay, so if it asked you to do something like that, then you would want to look back at example 2 to see an example of what you should do. Okay, so I want you to pause the video, and I want you to do a couple of problems. Let's do lesson practice A, let's do lesson practice E, and lesson practice H. So go ahead and pause the video and do those 3 problems, and then restart the video to check your work. All right, so for lesson practice A, we had, oops, I wrote that down wrong. We had this number. So again, the way we're going to simplify it is we are going to get rid of the extra zeros. All right, and so it becomes 3 2/10. For lesson practice E, we had to simplify our answers. So first you should have added these 2 numbers together and gotten 10 0/100. So to simplify it, we're just going to get rid of the zeros and the decimal, and we write 10 as our answer. And then finally for lesson practice H, it says attach a 0 to the end of 2 5/10 without changing its value. So you're going to take that 2 5/10 and just stick a 0 on the end. 2 50/100 is the same as 2 5/10. So that's how we simplify decimal numbers, and now you can go ahead back to Google Classroom to find your assignment for the day. Have a great day, guys.